Hello and welcome back to the Beautiful Things channel and what is destined to be podcast number 38. Now, back in December, in fact the 26th of December to be precise, 4 months and a week ago, I came on here and told you that the podcast was dead. I was getting really fed up of feeling pressured and pushed into creating content and therefore having to make stuff so that I could tell you about it. So I decided I was just going to cut it dead, not do it, and that way I could knit and I could crochet in my own time. I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And I said to myself that when I had enough stuff to show you, I would come back on and do another podcast. Well, it's been 4 months and I have got as much stuff to show you as some podcasters show you in a week. But I feel that I have enough that I can at least talk to you for maybe 15 or 20 minutes about what I've been doing, including a couple of FOs. So let's start. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. This is the Truly Hooked Honey Cardigan, which I have finally got done. I managed to get this done because I made it as part of a crochet along. So I have a free Facebook group that you can join. I'll pop the details down below for you. And in that group we do crochet alongs and sew alongs and various different things where we can work on a project together. So quite a few of us were working on the honey cardigan. And me, as leader of the pack, got started just before everybody else. So as they got to bits in the patterns where they got stuck, I could help them out. But I made it wrong. I didn't follow the pattern. And yeah, this bit here, the neckband, it should be considerably longer than this. And it should kind of drape over, and it does. But it doesn't do it properly, and the reason being is I just didn't read the pattern. So I carried on doing, I think, half trebles when it should have been trebles, or I did stuff in the back loop when it should have been in the front loop, or something. I can't actually remember what I did wrong. All I know is that I did it wrong. But I'm leaving it because it's fine, it suits me, I like it, it's comfortable, it's a nice wear. I'll get up and give you a proper little spin around in a minute. The other thing to note is that I ran out of yarn, which is really frustrating. So here, you might, or maybe here you may or may not be able to see a slight colour change. It's just here. It goes a little bit darker than the rest of it. I used, what did I use? John Arbon Knit by Numbers to do this, and I'd bought 4 skeins of it at the Unravel Festival in February 2018 to make this cardigan. So it had been sitting in my stash for some time. It hadn't been in the sun, so it hadn't faded through the sun. It's just, although they do a Knit by Numbers range, it's a different dye lot, but I ordered some more. So it did actually take 4.5 skeins instead of 4 skeins, and that could just be my tension. I don't know. I did all the maths and I calculated it properly, but I certainly, if I'd have done this correctly, I certainly wouldn't have had enough yarn. So a little bit frustrating there, but yeah, it's a nice fit. All the other ladies who made it felt the same way. They're not sure whether it's something that they would necessarily wear. It's a particular style, I think, because it is more like a bolero than a cardigan. Definitely next on my crochet list will just be a big chuck over cardigan that I can throw over. Now, I'm watching this on the screen and I'm not sure whether you've got little sunny speckles all over the place. I apologise if you have, but it's one of those days today where the sun's coming out and it's going in again and it's coming out and it's going in again. There's going to be absolutely no good time to film. So it might look like I'm doing a Bokwa podcast, but I could just be doing this right now and actually those little dots aren't on the screen at all and it's just dirt on my lens and I'm making a complete fool of myself, but we shall see. So let me stand up and give you a twirl of this cardigan. Here we go, I'll take you into the kitchen so you can see. It's just like a little scoopy jacket, comes down, you've got your ribbing on the cuffs, big lacy section on the back, and just chuck it on. So yeah, it's nice. It's more like a little jacket than a cardigan. You could put a big button here, but again, if you had the big collar, which I haven't, it would probably look a bit better. But yeah, again, I'm unsure what I'm going to do with this. I have a feeling, I can't be bothered to pull it back, but I have a feeling I might take the collar off and redo it at some point, because it also doesn't come down long enough in my opinion. on the back. I would much prefer it to come and skim my bottom. So I made it very quickly. It is a really easy make, but I'm not sure it's one that I love. So I'm going to take it off because it is actually really, really hot in here. But I do have another finished object. After making the honey cardigan, I thought actually how easy it was to do. It was a very simple pattern, and in my head I could get how it was all constructed. So I thought I was going to have a go and change the pattern up a little bit and try and make a smaller version out of some of this lovely yarn that we have from the pound shop. And I did make one, as you can see here. So the little sleeves and the lacy bits. This was going to be for Isabel, who is now nearly 8. But yeah, I made a few boo-boos in that as well. I got the construction correct, but the sleeves in my opinion are too big, and there's a big chunk at the back that's too big because I kept the original stitch count for certain parts of the pattern, which I know is wrong, and I don't really know why I did it. I just wasn't thinking. But I think the best thing to do to show you how this looks is to bring in a little helper. So from the front you can see it looks quite nice until Izzy puts her arms up. Put your arms up for me so you can see there's a little bit too much fullness here. I could have done with making these a bit smaller. And if you turn around for me, Izzy, and show me the back, and then lower your arms down for me, so you can see there's a big bulge here, and this is because I stupidly still did the required number of rows of the meshing. So obviously her back is nowhere near as long from the neck down to the waist, so there's this big extra bit here. So I don't really know what to do about this garment. I think I might pull it all back, which sounds criminal, and make it again, but I'm pleased with it. Give us a twirlies, have a pose. Ta-da! What do you think? Are you likely to wear it, or should I make it properly? Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Thanks for your time. Bye. So again, I think this is going to get pulled back, definitely, and turned either into another one. I might try again. But before I pull it back, I might make a note of the sections that do work, so that I can try and tie that in. Otherwise, I might just try and come up with my own idea for a cardigan or jumper. I think I've got quite a good plan. I want to make a kind of boho-y, crochet, retro style jumper that sort of starts life as a big granny square and has big billowy sleeves and sort of 70s style. I quite fancy doing something like that. So what I might do, rather than, you know, stress myself out over things that actually just haven't worked, just start again and just do something that I really want to do. So they're the only finished objects that I have. I do have a couple of nearly finished objects though. So the first one is my King Cole cardigan. I think I mentioned this in either my last podcast or the podcast before that. This was a pattern that I bought when I was away up near Peterborough and with Elspeth back in October. So when I came out of my kind of Christmas meltdown of I'm never going to be able to knit or crochet anything, I haven't got time to do anything, and sort of pity party for myself, I decided the best thing I could do, even though I had a load of whips already in my basket, was to cast something new on, and so that's what I did. And I have made the front, I think that's the right front. Yes, I've made the right front, so it's a raglan cardigan. The right front, the left front, and also the back. So it is all stocking stitch with garter borders, so it's fairly quick. It's a chunky yarn knitted on 6mm needles, but you can see it works up in this lovely kind of Fair Isle almost rib. It's a bit like the crofter yarn, but it's ever so soft. It's lovely. It's going to be really cozy, and I've just made a start on the sleeves, I think, if I remember rightly. Yes, I haven't knitted on this for about a month and a half, I do have to admit. So yeah, the sleeves, I'm doing them 2 at a time. They are here, wrong side. They are here, so I've just got started on those. and I'm doing them 2 at a time until I reach the decreases, and once I reach the decreases then I'll knit them separately, because otherwise I know I'll end up making mistakes. And then it will be ready to put together. So I don't think this is far off being finished. Certainly if I have the same amount of time between podcasts, then this will be a finished object on the next one. I'm really enjoying knitting it. It is a fairly simple pattern to follow. It's a classic pattern. It's written in classic terminology, so you can't really go wrong, as are most of the James C. Brett and King Cole patterns. Yeah, this is King Cole, but most of those patterns are written in the same kind of terminology. They're fairly easy to follow and they're all broken down. What I tend to do is I look at the pattern, I look at the section that I'm doing, and then I actually break it down into smaller chunks and I write it into a little notebook so that I can actually tick each row off as I go, especially when it comes to the shaping. But there are lots of sections in this pattern where it just says knit till it's 18 inches long or 15 inches long or however long, so you can just keep going and going and going. So it's nice monotonous telly knitting. The next item that is nearly done, although I say it's nearly done, it's nearly a hoe, because I have started another pair of socks and it is very nearly finished. In fact, I've worked on this very quickly, so you can see I've just got to the toe now, so I'm just about to knit the toe. That will take me probably half an hour or so to do that. I will have a big fat shout out to the lovely Viv. I did start this toe the other night, but I got distracted and I'm not quite sure what I did, and I think I missed some decreases, and I ended up, because I do magic loop, I ended up with the 12 stitches that I needed on one needle and about 18 on the other. So I'd obviously missed loads of different decrease sections, and I just couldn't face pulling it back. So I took it into work yesterday and Viv sat there and painstakingly knitted it all backwards for me and got it back to this point so I can re-knit my toe. So thank you, Viv. Very, very grateful. Now the difference with this sock is that it's my very first patterned sock, and it's only a little bit of pattern. I'm going to put my arm in it so that you can see it better. But, oh no, ooh, there's a big loose laddery bit right in the middle. Oh yuck, look at that. It's not drop stitches, but it's just really loose. I'm hoping that will sort itself out when it's blocked, because I'll be really disappointed, because that's right on the top of my ankle, the cuffs here, the heels here. I think it will. I think when it's blocked it will do. I can see it's not a drop stitch, it's just where I've got a really loose tension, I think probably from doing the magic loop around the heel area. Anyway, by the by, it has a cable running through it, so you can see here, cable running up there and also up here, and it goes right the way through from the cuff right the way down to the toe. So I'm really pleased with myself for doing that. This is actually one of the classes that Carol runs at my studio, the cable knit sock, and I was printing off patterns for her before I went away on holiday, and I was looking at the pattern and I thought, oh, do you know what, actually that doesn't look too hard. I was planning on doing the class with Carol, but then I read the pattern and thought I think I could do that. So I decided to cast on the plane on the way to Arizona. And I was very pleased. I got all of my cuff done, and I think I got down to about here on the plane on the way there. On the way home I picked it up to start to knit again and made a mistake. I just started doing knitting and not putting the patterning in because I wasn't thinking, and by that time they turned the lights off on the plane and everyone was working just on their little reading lamps, and I thought I can't be knitting backwards, it's too late at night, and I just put it back in the bag and waited till I got home and spent a couple of hours kind of knitting that section back. But so yeah, if you bear in mind I only came back from holiday 2 weeks ago, I've done all right. I've done down to the heel, I've done the heel, knitted all of the foot and knitted, and obviously I'm going to re-knit the toe. So I've done all of that. I didn't knit at all while I was on holiday, so probably in the equivalent of 2 weeks, which for me isn't bad at all. It's been quite a speedy little knit. What I like about this is it's using the yarn. Have I got the band in here? Yes, I have. It's the Olive and 2U yarn, and it is called Super Excited with a double O. So this is the yarn. Now I bought this in Florida when I went to Orlando. We went to a lovely little town called Celebration, and there was a lovely little shop in there. In fact, I've got the card in here, called Little Thimble. and I bought this Olive and Two yarn in Olive and 2U yarn in Little Thimble. And what I like about it is that when I was buying it, I had Izzy with me, and she said, "Mummy, the colours really remind me of Rapunzel," as in the new Disney Rapunzel, so the pink, the purple, and all the, obviously the yellow lanterns and everything else. And so it's quite apt that when I'm knitting a sock with a really long cable through it that looks almost like a plait in what we've called our Rapunzel yarn, these are therefore going to be my Rapunzel socks, and they're always going to remind me of our trip to Disney. So for many ways they all kind of interlink together, so they're quite lovely. The only thing I wish I'd done is I wish I'd caked my yarn into 2 balls. When I do socks, I like to do a cuff, a leg, a heel, a foot, and a toe, because that way you don't end up with second sock syndrome. Because although I'm really pleased that I've nearly finished this, I also know that I'm going to have to cast on another one and then I'm just going to knit the same old thing again, which isn't quite as thrilling as being able to create something for the first time for yourself, by yourself. So I really enjoyed this. Not sure I'm going to enjoy making the second one. So lesson learned, cake your yarn into 2. So the next thing I want to show you, if you have watched our BTHQ banter series, which is basically my day in the life vlogs that I do. They go up every Friday morning, and they're sort of behind the scenes of my studio, and you get to see what I've been sewing and making and various other things. You will have seen that Viv helped me finally put an afterthought heel into my tubular socks. Now, I'd shown you these in the past, and I'd had a call out to say, can anyone put afterthought heels in for me? And Viv actually decided she was going to take herself off and learn how to do it. So she did, and she's taught me. So I have cut into my sock myself, and I have knitted the heel. This is just waiting to be kitchenered, so I need to do that. I think I'm going to wait until I've got my other toe done, and then I'm going to have a bit of a kitchener session. So that has been done. Then I can pull out the waste yarn, and this sock is finished. I have marked the other one as well, and I've threaded in the lifeline here, so this is ready to cut. I'm not sure that I'm brave enough to pick those stitches up by myself yet, but we'll see. And now that she's taught me how to do that on those ones, then I'm also in a position, and I think we might have marked these as well, I can't remember. Yes, we have. I'm also in a position to cut these ones. So we've done these ones. These are the little ones I did with my Down Sheepy Lane minis a couple of years ago for Christmas. So yeah, these are long festering whips, but they are a little closer to completion than they were the last time you saw me. And I was very brave cutting into my yarn. I'll try and find that episode of BTHQ Banter and link it up here so you can have a look at how we did that. It has been a week or a month really of learning new skills. So not only have I put cables into socks and learned to cut into my socks and do afterthought heels, I have also finally learned how to brioche. Now this is only a teeny tiny bit. I've got balls of yarn bouncing around because it's in progress, but you can see here I have learned how to do a bit of 2-colour brioche. Now, if you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that during the summer last year, I created a Stephen West Penguono. Really loved it, really enjoyed the pattern, but the big band along the bottom, it doesn't have to be, but it is all in brioche. You can just do it in garter, but I thought, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly, but it meant I had to really master brioche. I tried brioche previously when I'd made an exploration station shawl, and it had all just gone horribly wrong. So I thought, no, we need to take this back to basics. Carol has recently started, she's taught herself to brioche, and she's now teaching brioche classes at the studio. So I spent the morning making a 1-colour piece of brioche and getting to understand the terminology, and then spent a couple of hours doing a 2-colour piece, and I think I finally got it. And actually I know exactly where I'd been going wrong with my exploration station. There is a part on one of the 4 rows that creates this 2-colour brioche where you need to bring your yarn around your needle to kind of create part of a stitch. And I remember that when I was doing my exploration station, every time I got to the end of the row where I should have had 2 loops of yarn, I only had 1, and I was like, this is wrong, I've dropped a stitch somewhere, I've lost a stitch somewhere, and I got frustrated with it, ended up thinking I was on a different row to the row I was on, and then all my 2-colour brioche, which had gone so well for a little while, then just completely reversed itself halfway through the section, and I just got really cross with it and dumped it. So this is a really good way of learning a new skill, and I do this with my crochet. So Lucy from Attic24 always does it, and I love it. When she writes a crochet pattern for a new blanket, she will always do a little swatch of the actual stitch process and encourage you to crochet that first so you can understand how it works, get it into your head before you actually crack on with a big large project. She does it with her ripple, she does it with her coastal blanket, all of her different blanket styles. That's how she starts all of her patterns off, and I like that. And certainly sitting doing this little sample piece of brioche has really helped me get it into my head. And I haven't cast it off because I intend to do a few more pattern repeats, just sitting quietly on my own, just to get it really ingrained in my brain, make sure that I understand the pattern and I can follow the pattern without having Carol there by my side, before I then stick a lifeline into my penguono cardigan and give it a go. Where that's going to be so much harder is that the penguono is knitted with fingering weight held double, and you have 4 completely different shades to create 2 different colorways. So it's going to be an awful lot of strands along the top of my needle that I'm going to have to really knit carefully and make sure that I pick up the right ones. So it will be a challenge, but as I say, if I sit and carefully do a little bit more of this, I think I'll be okay. Oh, here's my sample of the plain bit. And really, I've worked out this is just fisherman's rib. So it is a much nicer way of knitting fisherman's rib though than fisherman's rib, traditional fisherman's rib, and I think this would make a really nice, it's so squidgy. If you could knit this in the round, it would be a really lovely way of making a cabled hat, not a cabled hat, a ribbed hat, without having to knit rib, and it would be reversible as well, so you could put different colours, different coloured bobbles on the tops, so you could have a reversible hat with a pink bobble on one side and a green bobble on the other. I've got 2 languishing whips that I must show you, only very quickly, just to show you that I have actually been working on them. That is my Advent shawl, which you probably haven't seen. Oh no, I may have shown it to you because my last podcast was the end of December, wasn't it? So yes, this is my Advent shawl that I did with my For the Love of Yarn DK Advent calendar. It now needs to have its band put along the bottom, which is in this lovely purple colour, and that's going to go all the way along the bottom, and I haven't even thought about doing that, so I really need to get this caked up and pop it on there. It shouldn't take very long, it's DK, it's crochet, it should be pretty speedy. So I'd actually forgotten about this, and I was going through my project bags and making my notes for today's podcast. I came across this and thought, oh, I'd forgotten about that. So I'm going to keep this out now and get it caked up so that I can make a start on that, because that should be a really quick finish, and again something else to show you as a finished object next time round. The other thing that I've been working on in classes, and ignore the jingly bells, this was my Christmas Eve cast on, so it's got my little Santa Claus bell on here. I'll try and hold on to him so he doesn't jingle too much. This is my, oh gosh, what's it called? Hang on. My brain's gone today. Oh yeah, that's it, screwed up pattern. This is my contour shawl by Joanne's Grace, in cast yarns, Mystic Narwhal colourway. Again, this is gorgeous, it's got a really lovely feel to it. It's my Christmas Eve cast on. I've only got this much yarn left, so I really must carry on with this one. It's another one that just got put in the box, and I haven't carried on with it, so I need to get this finished too. Both DK crochet projects, they should be done in, you know, not long at all, so I really need to make sure that the bags get put at the top of the pile so they don't get buried. So when you look back, I actually have got a fair amount done in 4 months, bearing in mind that probably I only get to sit down for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most each week to do any knitting or crochet. Most of my evenings tend to be spent obviously doing mummy things. But then once the kids are in bed about 8, half 8, I do normally have an hour and a half, 2 hours to get on with bits and pieces. But I do tend to find myself either working, updating things on my website, talking to customers, talking to clients, chatting on Facebook or social media or in our groups, and just generally, you know, doing work stuff most of the time. So I do have to make time for me to be able to crochet and to knit, and I have done it, and I think certainly not having the pressure of a podcast looming over me has really helped with that. And again, I'm not going to make any promises as to how many months or weeks or days it will be until you see me come on and do another knitting or crochet podcast. When I've got something to show you and a fair decent amount to show you, then I will come on and do it too. But I am still really, you know, pushing this message that it's really important that you try and give yourself some time so that you can do something for you. And it doesn't have to be knitting or crochet or sewing or crafts at all. You know, I had a long chat with lots of my audience in my Facebook group the other night about me time or the other afternoon, and we were talking, and some people like to take themselves off for nice walks, other people go swimming, some people just like to curl up in a big armchair with a book for half an hour. And it doesn't matter what you do. Self-care doesn't have to be all massage and spa days. You know, self-care is whatever you need to be able to give yourself a little bit of time, and that me time is incredibly important. So try and look after yourselves, guys. Don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure. You know, do what you need to do. In fact, the lovely Louise Pentland, who I follow on YouTube, and I've also read all of her books, one of her favourite phrases is "you do you," and I think that is absolutely apt. You need to do what you need to do, and you need to be the person that you need to be able to do the thing that you need to do. You do you. So lastly, just before I go, I want to have a little chat about a couple of other podcasters that I've been watching, and also some of the events and things that I'm going to be at in the next few weeks, so we can hopefully catch up. I'm just going to refer to my notes to make sure I don't forget them. So the first one is another shout out to the lovely Viv. Viv is one of my pupils, but she is also our administrator at Beautiful Things, so she deals with all the bookings and all the handles all the bookings and everything else, and she's also admin on lots of my support groups and things, so that she can be the person that you can reach out to if you need any help. But Viv has started podcasting. She is doing a monthly podcast called Sit and Knit with Vivette. I shall link it down below. She's doing lots of work for charity this year. She has a lot more time than I do to knit and crochet, and she is steamrolling through the amount of things that she is creating. She does a lot of test knits for people. So she tries out lots of new patterns, and she's been making lots and lots of really lovely things recently. So I think she's on to her 3rd or 4th podcast now, so do check it out. I will link it down below. Go and say hi and tell her I sent you. The other thing for you to note is the lovely Saz at Cast Yarns. She's a very, very, very good friend of mine. I often talk about her yarns. She has a sale on at the moment, so go and check that out. I will link her website down below. The next thing of worthy mention is that I am only going to one yarn show this year. I am not going to, I haven't been to Unravel, I'm not going to Yarndale, not going to any of the big ones as such. The only one I am going to go to is Fibre East this summer. At the moment I am going to Fibre East on the Saturday. The Sunday is my mother-in-law is here, and my mother-in-law flies back home to Australia on the Sunday, so I am going to Fibre East on the Saturday. So if you're going to be at Fibre East, it would be really lovely to meet you and say hello. Don't be afraid to come up and say hi, tap me on the shoulder. I will be vlogging the day, so if you see me with my camera, feel free to photobomb. I love it when people wave in the background. So if you're going to go, let me know. And the last thing is that I have launched an online crochet club, and this club is specifically for people who are still trying to get their head round following a crochet pattern. As I mentioned earlier on, Lucy, when she does her patterns, is superb. She really breaks everything down. She writes it with the complete novice in mind, and she is incredibly clear. However, many crochet patterns aren't written quite so clearly. There doesn't seem to be like a universal language like there is with knitting. I think knitting's been around for that much longer that the patterns do tend to be a lot more regimented. And with crochet, although yes, we have our huge differences between our stitch names, so the American and the US names, anyone can translate that, that's fine. But it's just things like going to the next stitch means something totally different to me as it could mean to the person who is writing the crochet pattern. By some people mean next stitch right at the base of their foundation chain. Some people mean next stitch as the next V along. Some people count their chain as a stitch, some people don't. And some people write that in the pattern, and that's always very handy. So they might put chain 3, this counts as a treble throughout. Great, that's really handy, thanks for that. Other people don't. They might put chain 3, crochet in the next stitch. And you think to yourself, do you mean that that's going to count as a stitch, or does it not? And until you can climb inside the head of the crochet designer and understand how they crochet, it can be really hard to read their pattern and understand it. People like myself and those of us who've been crocheting for a long while are able to know where those hiccups can happen, and we can do a row and think, that stitch counts out. Why is that stitch count out? Oh, that will be because she meant for me to do this, or X, Y, and Z, because we've been crocheting for a long while. But that just is purely practice. So what I've done is I've launched a club that's going to give you the opportunity to practice with different patterns that are all written differently. But I know every single one of these patterns inside out, and I've made it many, many times. So I'm encouraging you to have a go, and then when you get stuck, I am there for you to help you. You can ask advice and guidance, and I can support you. And so you're practicing, but you're having somebody there to help you and sit by your side, rather than crocheting at home, not getting it right for whatever reason and going, I can't do this, and chucking it away. Because I've seen so many people give up trying to learn to crochet because when it gets to the pattern following stage, they feel like they're hitting their head against a brick wall. So my crochet club is a really, really, really cheap club. It's £6.50 a month to be a member, and every month you will get given a brand new pattern of your choice. At the moment there is a bank of about 25 different patterns that you can choose from, and every month I will be adding new patterns. They will be patterns that I've been given permission to teach and share by people who have created them, as well as patterns that I have written myself. So I will pop the details down below. I don't like to give everybody or anybody a hard sell. They're down there. If you want to go and have a look, have a look. There is no obligation to join, but if you do need a bit of help and support and would like to learn how to be able to follow a crochet pattern with ease, then this is the club for you. Not just that, but it's going to be a super fun place where everyone can chat and get together, share their work, help each other out, and just generally create a lovely yarny crochet community. So we'll feel the love. So that's me, over and out for now. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell, and then next time when I upload content you will be notified. I'm sure you're aware I post content on here 5 times a week, but it isn't yarny or crochet very often. But if you do check out BTHQ Banter each week on a Friday, you will see there is some yarny content there to keep you engaged until the next time I have enough to show you. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you all again soon.